Thank you, Alain. I met Alain in his office off the Champs-Élysées in 2007 with a guy named Dan McGinnis, who was the CEO of Mag Silver. He is a very smart and sharp portfolio manager, and he's been a good friend and a supporter. So thank you, Alain, for the number of years that we've been together. I'm going to do a bit of a preamble. Everybody seems to have done that, but this is about discovery. The group that is behind Domestic Metals has a history of many multiple economic discoveries. And the names behind that are, as Alain mentioned, Peter McGaw, Dan McGinnis, Rui Fang from Silver Corp, myself from New Pacific. Discoveries like the Oyu Tolgoi discovery in Mongolia, Mag Silver's Valdecañas and Juanicipio discoveries, and Cinco de Mayo, our discovery at New Pacific of silver sand and Carangas, Henk Van Alphen's discovery of the Takataka mine in Argentina. It goes on and on. And the reason that this is important is if this is about discovery, and as Ross Alistair said earlier, we don't have enough new discoveries coming online. They're deeper, they get more expensive to find, but this team that has its arms around this Domestic Metals and the Smart Creek project has made multiple major economic discoveries, and it's important to know that because we think we're onto another one. I will make, have made and will make some more forward-looking statements. So these are the highlights for Smart Creek. It's a Rio Tinto property, as Alain mentioned. They own 100% of it. We get to earn 60%. They'll maintain 40%. But they drilled 109 meters of 0.75% copper at Smart Creek in 2022. Included in that was 80 meters of 1% copper. It's kind of like Danny's Aftermath Silver. These kinds of grades and those kind of intercepts are equal tons, grade in tons, which you need for an economic discovery. But what's more interesting about this 109 meters of 0.75 is Peter McGaw, our geologist, and Rio has determined that it's outboard of the main centralized zone, of the mineralized zone. You're looking for a porphyry or CRD. I think Danny mentioned a carbonate replacement deposit. Really, that's basically magnetic fluid that comes into contact with carbonate fluids, which neutralizes the acidic part of the magma, and instantly there is a dropping out of metals. So there's a precipitation of metals. Rio selected our geologists, Dan McNeil and Alan Wainwright, specifically when they decided not to take this project forward. And I'll explain why they didn't take it forward, but they came to us and said, we like this, you guys are porphyry specialists, tell us if you like it and you'd move it forward. In 2025, we did a field sampling program that returned the highest grades I've ever seen in 35 years in this business. And it was 102 grams per ton of gold, 23% copper, and 3,800 grams per ton silver. Those are off the charts in terms of surface sampling. So it's telling us that there's something on this project. Our geologist found a porphyry dike at surface, which Rio missed. And Rio told our geologists, had they found this dike, we would never have this project. What it tells you when you find a porphyry dike at surface, it's a finger extension of the mineralization at depth. It tells you that you're standing on something significant. We would never have gotten this. And it's 100 square kilometers of property. It's not unusual that a company like Rio would have missed that. Our guys found it. Again, there is also looking at a porphyry mineralization. Peter McGaw came to me at Christmas time after he saw our results on the sampling, and he said, "You look to me like you've also got, in addition to a porphyry center, carbonate replacement deposits, probably more than one on this property. I'd like to come and help you." And that's it. Having Peter's help he's the #1 world authority on carbonate replacement deposits. We just did a 3-day seminar to Rio 2 weeks ago in their offices. I don't know how we spent 3 days from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon talking about carbonate replacements deposit, but it was quite insightful for all of us. The geophysics we just finished, and it's given us multiple new large-scale targets. I'll show you those. We have 36 holes to drill, which were actually Rio's holes. The U.S. Forest Service reinstated those. This is, again, the U.S. government looking at critical metals. I think Danny mentioned that, or it was either Danny or Ross that mentioned that the U.S. government and Trump is pushing for drill, baby, drill. So the U.S. Forest Service just got out of our way and said you can have the drill permits, essentially, and we start drilling in about 2 weeks. I would like to add that for major economic discoveries or projects, you need high grade and tons. So you need scale and you need grade. Primarily grade is most important, but then you want it to have life of mine, so you need scale. I'm not going to go over it. I have a very quick, I think, slide on supply and demand, but I think Ross went over it as well. Industrialization, and in addition to industrialization, I would add self-sufficiency in that word, meaning this whole tariff thing that the Trump administration has caused has had people focus on industrialization in their own backyard. You need to be able, if you have these kinds of leaders that are being protectionist, you need to be self-sufficient, and that's where the industrialization plus the self-sufficiency comes into play. Oops, sorry. As I mentioned, Rio's going to keep 40%. We're going to earn 60%. There's an important mine that's 50 kilometers to the southeast of our Smart Creek project. It's called the Butte Mine. The Butte Mine produced 20% of all historical copper production in the United States, 22 billion pounds. We are in the same trend, same geological formation, and same age of rocks. Rio thinks we might have a second Butte here. They gave it to us on a silver platter. I will also show you that they drilled right up to what's called a chargeability high. They made some water. They got a little scared. They backed off. We're going to re-drill those holes, but we're right on the edge of a high, and we believe they basically said, we just missed it. You can have it. You drill it, and we're almost there. I talked about carbonate replacement deposits and porphyry that we have, and this team has a history of major economic discoveries. Wrong way. So again, I won't spend a lot of time on this. You've got the supply gap here for mines coming online. We talked about AI and EVs and grid storage and grid augmentation. To be able to decarbonize the world and bring the amount of energy to run cars and data centers, we need a lot more copper. We've got to augment our grid systems. It's going to take a lot of copper, a long time, and a lot of money. And that's driving the price of copper. So we were in Montana. It's a top tier jurisdiction. This is, this is the Butte mine I was talking about here, 22 billion pounds. This is Ivanhoe Electric, Robert Friedland's Hog Haven. Huddleston mine is here. The Black Butte Sandfire Resources, very high grade, actually 2.9%, small tonnage, but with that kind of grade, you'll probably put that in production because you're going to make money for 10 years, 8 years. And the Beaverton is here. We're Smart Creek here. These green dots are all copper occurrences in the western side of Montana. There's a lot of copper endowed in this state. Now, I get the question a lot, why, if this is such an important or a good project, why would Rio give it up? Well, Rio has an exploration budget, but its exploration budget's really centered around feeding its existing operation. It's an operating company, so its operating budget, its exploration budget is focused on extending the life of those existing operations. So they run out of money eventually because for their other project, and this was one of those projects. They liked it, but they just couldn't fund it. So they came to our porphyry specialists, who they worked with before, Alan and Dan, and said, look at this, see if you like it. If you like it, please tell us if you can take it forward. They came to me to raise the money and to run the thing, so that's where it's come from. That's where this is coming from. That's why Rio gave it to us. We have on the property, there was a past producing area called the Sunrise Mine. It produced 12,500 ounces of gold between 1,800 and 1,900 at 6 grams per ton, almost an ounce of silver, and more importantly, 1.5% copper. Those are good copper grades. We have a lot of data from Rio. I talked about the 109 meters of 0.75 and our surface sampling. You don't want to be the first person in on these looking for porphyry. You want to be fourth or fifth, and we are the fifth ones to drill here, and it's underexplored. This is a very busy slide, so I won't again spend a lot of time on it. What suffice to say, these are the top line results that we talked that Rio got at that 109 meters, but every single one of these intercepts has copper in it. And these are all distal to the center of a porphyry discovery. The copper is existent in every single one of these holes and trenches. So it's a signature that we're on the right path. There are 4 target areas on the property. This is 110 square kilometers. There's a kilometer bar there. It's a big property. When you're looking for porphyries, you need big alteration packages. These purple polygons here are the alteration packages. They are obviously 8 kilometer by 10 kilometers. That's what you're looking for. This blue dotted line in here is the Helena Formation. The Helena Formation is the same formation that the Butte mine has 50 kilometers to the east-southeast. It is limestone. Limestone is the reactive host rock that you need for porphyries to develop. And in the bottom, it should be red here, but this is all diabase, and diabase is also a reactive host rock that you need. And at the Resolution mine in Arizona, its grade would be a 0.5% copper without the diabase. With the diabase, its grade is 1.5% copper, which is an enormous difference in terms of economics. And this is all diabase in here, and this is all limestone. This is the alteration size. The targets that we have is Smart Creek here, which is area 1. This is the Sunrise area. This is where Dan and Alan found the porphyry dike sticking out of the ground. And this is where the past producing Sunrise mine is, where there was a 1.5% copper. This is an interesting area, the radio tower target. Peter McGaw believes that there's a CRD in here, and our geophysics are actually supporting that as well, which I'll show you. This is really where Rio did a lot of its drilling, and it is there's a lot of oxides, a lot of malachite on the ground here. So when you walk around London and you see the greenish roofs that were one time copper colored, that's what oxidized copper and the malachite looks like. It's all over the ground here. They started drilling here thinking it would give them hope. It didn't find the center of the porphyry. These 2 holes here are the last 2 holes that they drilled. And you'll see in an upcoming slide that it's right on the edge of a chargeability high. So this is, again, I've already mentioned this. These are the highest grade surface samples I've ever seen, and I said so in a press release. This is where those samples were found. This 102 grams per ton gold was very close to where they found the exposed dike surface. The 3,800 grams per ton silver is down in Radio Tower, which again gave us a surprise. The 23% copper, which again is off the charts, it is in the area of the oxide area, which again, that's not a real surprise either. This is where that exposed dike at surface was. These exposed dike at surface would have its copper leached out through weathering, so you are not going to find any copper there. But the gold will stay in place, and that gold on an exposed dike should be around 0.2 to 0.5%, 0.5% copper, 0.5% gold. At 4.26% gold on this dike, it's off. Again, these numbers, in my experience with MAG, New Pacific, etc., when the numbers start high like this, they seem to stay high. This is the geophysics I was talking about. We just ran a series of geophysics. Rio gave us some geophysics, but they were only partial. This is 43, this magenta area is 43 millivolts per volt, which is very high chargeability. So you charge the ground, you set sensors up, and the dissipation of the electrons back up into the sensors, the longer it takes for those electrons to come back up, the higher the chargeability metal under the ground is going to be. And that shows up in this magenta. So you have, this was radio tower. There's a big chargeability high here. This is 2 kilometers of chargeability. There's something huge under here. This is where that exposed dike at surface was. There's a chargeability here. There's a big charge. Now these are the last 2 holes that Rio drilled. And they're just on the edge of this chargeability high. They're telling us, step in here 200 meters, drill right here, and you should hit the center of it. This also surprised us here on the eastern edge of Smart Creek Exotic, which is mainly surface oxide stuff, but there's something going on here. We have work to do here and work to do here. We are going to start drilling. We're going to re-drill these 2 holes and step up here over the next few weeks, and then drill this, and we'll do some work to see where we're going to drill here and here. But we need new discoveries. We need large new discoveries, and these chargeability highs and the size of these alteration packages tell us that there's something extremely big here. This again is just the surface samples on top of the chargeabilities, the IP surveys. This again just shows you scale. This is Smart Creek, which was the number 1 target area. This is 1.3 kilometers in length, this chargeable metal endowment here, whatever it is. We're assuming it's copper, but it's enormous. And at Smart Creek Exotic, it's actually 2.5 kilometers in length. So again, these porphyries need big alteration packages. They need big areas to exist, and we have them here. Again, this is the other 2. This one is 1.4 kilometers in length, and this was almost 1.4 kilometers in length in terms of chargeability. We're starting a 9,000 meter drill program. The money is raised. As I said, we'll start with these 2 holes here. We'll put 1 in here. We'll put a couple in here. While we're doing this work here and here, we'll do groundwork here to see where we would drill at Radio Tower, and we will do some more work in here and drill in here as well. Again, that's preliminarily. If we hit the porphyry at depth, CRDs are probably, Peter tells me, on this project will be 350 to 450 meters deep, where the porphyries we expect to be 550 to 700 meters. So if we're in those kinds of depths, and I'm still in mineralization at 700 meters, you just keep going. You don't stop when you're in mineralization, you just keep going. So with a little bit of a caveat that where we're going to drill will depend on what we hit and what we pull out of the ground. These are the access lands. I guess it's a little washed out here, it's hard to see, but below this dotted line is the U.S. Forest Service land that they gave us 36 holes that were originally Rio's. They expired. Our geologist picked up the phone and said, maybe the Trump administration has maybe had an effect on these guys. In Arizona, to get U.S. Forest Service land permitted for a drill hole, 5 to 7 years. Like, I'm not going to take investor money and say I can't drill for 5 or 7 years. I'm never going to get it. But in Montana, you can get U.S. Forest Service, you can get permits within 4 to 6 months. They gave us these 36 holes with 1 phone call. They just gave them back to us. And they extended them for 5 years. So that was that. And again, that's a part of the Trump administration. Don't get in the way of progress with critical metals. Above this line is Bureau of Land Management, BLM lands. Those take about 2 to 4 months to process. These dark gray ones are actually patented lands, so there are privately held lands. We can drill on those within 14 days. It's very gently rolling area. It's non-indigenous area. It's farmland. We got a road going through here. We've got power going through here. So it's easy to access and easy for us to work. I think Danny was talking about Peru and 4,000 meters, and he was just on the other side of Lake Titicaca. When I was working in Bolivia with New Pacific, we were at 4,200 meters. He's right. Walking around at 4,200 meters, you have to sort of be careful. You can't walk fast unless you're indigenous and you're moving around, but we're in a very good elevation. The deal with Rio is 5 years, $5 million, $350,000 the first year, 1.6 million we will have to spend by end of June this year, which we start drilling in a couple of weeks. We'll have that spent. And then I'm hoping that my geologists tell me they would not be surprised if we pulled 150 meters of 1.5% copper. If I get those kind of numbers, I can move the company to the next level, go and get some more money and have that paid off before the 5 years. Alain talked about my background with Mag Silvers, Silver Corp, New Pacific Metals. Peter McGaw is in fact, Rio said he's a legend. That's the word they use. He's a legend in this business. You have to align yourself if you want to be successful, as I have been in this business, with geologists that know how to find economic projects. So that's Peter, and that's Dan, and that's and Alan. I mentioned Hank as well. Hank was the founder of Corriente, Taka Taka. Every single one of the people on this board here have been in this business for at least 40 years. One of the most important guys right now is this guy. He's actually putting me in touch with the governor of Montana next month, and I'm meeting with the governor of Montana as a result of him being a Montanan. 60 million shares out. Insiders own 16%, 30 million warrants, 4.7 options for 95 million fully diluted. That financing has been completed and done. We just announced that yesterday. And that's all I have to say. We're going to find more copper. We need more copper. This, in my estimation, will be my third home run where we have a major economic discovery. Thank you very much.